Hey guys, today I want to talk about power generation in Wing Chun, and we're going to talk about punching, tan sao. It's all kind of the same. The main concept is when people are starting out in any martial art, happens in boxing, anything, is they'll tend to come into class very stiff, or they have a perception of what fighting is or what martial arts are, and it's like this. It's clenched up, it's stiff, everything here is locked up, and they squeeze these muscles. They squeeze their fist, they squeeze their forearm, they squeeze their bicep. Now, the problem with that is these are antagonist muscles. They're designed to, this bicep here is designed to lift this arm this way. It's not useful for this motion. So when you punch and you squeeze your bicep, you're actually holding back your own punch. You're slowing yourself down. The punch, of course, comes from the back. And if you do Wing Chun and do the Sun Tao form, part of the form is supposed to teach you that. Now, when you're in class for the first time, you're watching your Sifu do this, you don't understand what the Sifu is doing. You're copying the shape of the hand, and you might have a totally misleading idea. And the main misleading idea you might have, that I had, and I think a lot of people have, is that your hand is the thing that's leading. So watch this motion. My hand leads, which causes my elbow to open, which drags my shoulder joint. Okay, so it looks like this. Hand, elbow, shoulder. If you practice that way, when you punch, you're going to end up thinking about your hand, shoulder, elbow, shoulder. It's the wrong order. First of all, when you do this and you think about your hand, you have a tendency to activate these muscles, which we don't want. So number one is we need to practice our Sun Tao in a way that deactivates these muscles. And if you punch, if you actually look at the biomechanics of a punch, you have some light stuff here, and you have some heavy stuff here, and you have some big muscles here, and back here, the really big stuff, and as you go lower, it gets even bigger and more powerful, right? So, if you look at any martial art, almost entirely, I don't think there's any exception to this rule, power is generated from down here. It's the legs, it's the core, this is where the power is, and this is where the power is let go. So, if you punch like this, and I'm not going to talk about full body integration because that's a more of an advanced concept, but even as a beginner, if you punch with your hand leading, you will tend to, first of all, squeeze, and second of all, you're using the light stuff to pull the heavy stuff. Now if you invert this concept and think about your shoulder first, rotating, your shoulder rotating and driving the elbow, and then the elbow opening and throwing this hand forward, it's a totally different thing. So in slow motion, let's look at it again. The wrong way, hand first, opening the elbow, rotating the shoulder. The right way, shoulder down, elbow goes forward, that's just my shoulder joint rotating. Now the elbow opens. Okay? So the right way, this goes first, like that. There's lots of ways to explain this concept. This is one of the ways to explain it, is that the shoulder leads or that the elbow leads. I think for beginners, it's difficult to understand what that means. So oftentimes in Wing Chun classes, my class, and I've watched a million videos on this, almost every Sifu, they say focus on the elbow. The elbow drives the hand. And that's, I think, a good way for beginners to think about it, because when you say focus on the elbow drives the hand, what that actually means, the elbow obviously can't move by itself. It's not this joint only does this. So when we say the elbow drives the hand, what we really mean is the shoulder joint rotates, right? The shoulder joint rotates, it drives the hand. So the shoulder joint rotates, it drives the hand. The elbow drives the hand. The other way to think about it that actually stuck for me, and I backed into this concept, even though my Sifus have said this to me a million times, it's here, right? You don't really understand it until you practice it a whole bunch of times yourself, and then it integrates into your body. But the thing that did it for me was actually a Tai Chi video by Chen Zhanghua, where at some point he mentioned the idea of like this part is a hammer and this is your hand. You're holding this is a hammer right here, right? This is the part that holds the hammer. So forget about this. This is your tool. This is not the thing that does anything. It's just a tool. And if you think about this part of your hand as a tool, or another way to think about it is it doesn't exist. You're just throwing your elbow. You just throw your elbow forward. This part just seems to be attached to it, and it happens to strike because this is just a tool that you're holding with this joint. So now we're using our shoulder joint to move the elbow and to let this fly. It's a completely different feeling if you do it this way, because it actually promotes your relaxation here and here, and it engages your shoulder, your back muscles, your lats, so it engages them to do this motion, just this rotation. And once you have the rotation, the rest is easy. You know how to open your elbow. You need to open your elbow to create the straight line of the punch. But there's two ways to do it. You can either drive this joint first and then open, or you can open here and then do this and drag your joint into position. You'll still get to the same final destination, but this way you have no power. This way you have a ton of power. And I've tested this here on the punch machine back there. I weigh about 140 pounds. If I punch thinking about my hand, I can maybe get to my weight. If I punch with my shoulder leading, I've punched 200 on a 140 weight. So it makes a huge difference. It's just completely psychological. You just think shoulder, elbow, hand, and that causes the correct biomechanics, which is that the heavy stuff drives the light stuff. So hopefully that's helpful to somebody. This thing seems to work differently for different people, but the concept of chopping off this part of your hand and just thinking that you're throwing it with this seems to help a lot of people. So I hope that helps you as well.